PNL live. Espo's joining us today. What's up, Espo? I'm fired up, brother.
Back at it again.
Back
What's
at
going-
it like we Jersey in the house. So look, a couple things. Like, I don't want to inundate the entire wrestling world with my views and my views only. But like,
Man.
here it comes. I don't know, these tournaments that used to be amazing. Like Midlands was a real good tournament back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Scuffle, Oklahoma State used to bring their ones to the Scuffle. Penn State used to bring their ones to the Scuffle. You don't see that as much anymore. Now it's splintered into one more event, right? Like there's another Salute for the Troops event that's not, right? So in your estimation, and I have my own thoughts and I'll keep them myself for a minute. In your estimation, what's the reason that you think some of these Christmas events aren't as kind of loaded as they used to be?
Well, I mean, you're right on that. I mean, Midlands, I remember Midlands back in the day, senior level athletes wrestled in it. And I think David last one to do it. I think David wrestled Zahid. Yeah, I remember one time Bill Zack was in the finals with Mike Zack in the finals, and it was after they graduated, or after Bill graduated. That's pretty cool to see. And then I remember when we were at the Scuffle. I mean,
and by the way, there was a couple international guys that used to sneak in there every once in a while too. They never won much because it was folk style, but they did have, I remember Mongolian sneaking in every once in a while just to get some reps in.
Yeah. Well, then I saw, and Scuffle used to be that way too. I mean, it was for a while. Like whoever won the Scuffle was going to win the NCAA tournament. Penn State was there, obviously, they were winning. But OSU was there too, and Minnesota was there, and Arizona State. I mean, there was a lot of Cornell. I want to say one year it was like the top 5 teams in the country were competing at the Scuffle. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's so much just wrestling. I think every sport is kind of creating more and more events. Like in the fall, if you look at basketball, they got a tournament in Hawaii, they got a tournament in Bahamas, they got a tournament here, they got a tournament there. So I don't know. I think maybe that a person comes along and says, hey, I want to create this event, and they get teams to lobby and go to those events, and then they decide to go to those events. I mean, the Scuffle was really big, and then they started these duels in Florida that Cornell went to. So then those teams go to that. And then, now you have Iowa going to the Salute to the Troops. And it's just kind of just the way kind of events have happened now. I mean, you see it in high school now too. I mean, you see it everywhere. So I think it's just someone gets the idea and creates it. And then you just,
and that's the new thing for a 10-year period. And then
I think. Well, it was. I remember Beast of the East was really big, and then I don't know how long Powerade was going on for, but when I was at Blair, we didn't go to the Powerade. I don't know if the Powerade was around, but it was Iron Man, then Beast of the East.
It wasn't Beast of the East, right? Beast of the East was the buzz back then.
Yeah, Beast of the East was was big, and then we would go to like a Lehigh Valley tournament. I think it was like the Bethlehem Holiday Classic. It was like the Hurricane tournament. So we didn't even go to Powerade. I don't know when it really started. But I mean, it's kind of crazy what caught on and what sticks, like the Ironman tournament, how well that's stuck. And, if anything, it's even bigger now than it's kind of, I don't know.
I have interesting thoughts about that one too, though. Like there are certain tournaments that get like an asterisk as far as I'm concerned. Like, don't get me wrong. You win Ironman, you're for real. You win Super 32, you're for real. But like the back end of those brackets, sometimes I kind of scratch my head at results, and like I don't want to make excuses, but like the mats at Ironman are so tiny. Like it's really hard to wrestle on that. Super 32 is another one that comes to my mind. 1-1-1 on the back end of that bracket.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's not a wrestling match. That's not like a 1-1-1. Come on, bro. Until you make it like that's not wrestling. Like you gotta take that, you win.
Yeah, you're getting the cattle through, you know.
Yeah.
Through. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, try not to get on the backside.
Yeah, don't get on the backside. That's the name of the game, right?
But you can. I mean, some good guys could get beat on that backside on a 1-1-1. You know, 1-1-1 doesn't favor a Bill Bassett. You know, the longer the better. You know, for a guy like him. But it could favor anyone that could hold off and it could be a good rider. You know, so I think the best wrestler, will still find a way to get the job done. We show it, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of just the way the world works and way it evolves. I mean, even when I was in high school, like, I mean, I don't remember wrestling. I mean, we didn't wrestle our first tournament until, I mean, Ironman was the first big tournament. I mean, there wasn't a Super 30. You know, it was Ironman, Beast of the East, then your Christmas tournament, and then your end of the year tournament filled in with a few dual meets. Now, I mean, I think that, and then you got ready right for freestyle season, or Greco, and those were, and that was a whole other season in itself that you went through tournament, which was, going for a cadet world team or a junior world team, and then get yourself ready for junior duels, and then Fargo, schoolboy duels for some other, for the younger kids. But the folk style season has gone, even further. If you actually started maybe, who's number one was what, September, and then you had a journeyman tournament, and then you had Super 32. I mean, it's almost like you had a whole season before the season even started, and then you go in and
100% like that.
Yeah, and
like that's the way. Like we peak for we map it out every year. We peak for Super 32 and journeyman. Okay, our hammers go to Super 32. If you place in the state tournament, you're going to Super 32, and then they take a dive after that. They shut it down for a couple weeks, dude. They gotta, right? Like, I mean, some of the kids will trickle back into the room, 3-4 days later after Super 32, but for the most part, they're taking 8 days, 10 days off. Like, and they should, like they should.
I'm surprised that Super 32 has, I mean, still the best kids are going. I mean, but when you add recruiting trips as juniors and kids going on visits, that makes it even harder too. You're gone weekend for recruiting trips, especially with unlimited trips. If you start going on trips in September or August, you're going away all these weekends, especially with school and such. But you could see in some people's performance too of how many visits kids were going on and being ready and that kind of stuff. I mean, honestly, of looking back, as a college coach, I mean, fresh out of it from last year. I mean, I wish that they pushed the recruiting process to the spring of the junior year, as opposed to the junior year. And I know that's kind of switching subjects on tournaments.
No, that's fine. No, that's good, man. That's kind of what we're here for, right?
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to kind of say. I mean, there's so many kids that they're good as the fall of their junior year, but if you compare a person in the fall of their junior year to the summer of their junior year, or even the fall of their senior year, I mean, it's a huge difference. It's almost sometimes like a different person. I mean, you're taking. I mean, I know how I was of starting out as my junior year. I won. I won Ironman as a junior in high school, but the year before, I mean, if you would have recruited me in the fall of my junior year, the schools that I would have visited in the fall of my junior year compared to the schools that I visited in my fall of my senior year would have been completely different schools.
That's a different school list, isn't it?
Completely different offers, so as a college.
That's it's tricky, right? It's really tricky because there's only so much scholarship money to go around.
Yeah.
Right? We're 9.9. I mean, I know that there's NIL now, but let's just talk about brass tacks, money from the school. 9.9 scholarships for each wrestling team. If you don't, how about this? If you don't, like from a dad's point of view, if you don't take those trips as a incoming junior, right, going into your junior season, are you going to miss out on something? I don't know.
I don't
You
know.
tell me.
I mean, if you're good enough, they're gonna find a way. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
I mean, as much as a relief it is to a college coach to get a commitment from a junior, it's becoming a relief to these kids to get the decision over with too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, one, you got cell phones and you got Instagram and you got everything and imagine for people to communicate with you. And half the time, I remember just when you're talking to kids and you're recruiting them, or even now where I'm talking to kids now about the EAP program here and talking about them coming here as a senior in high school or what have you. They're talking about like, we just want to wait on our decision. We want to wait on our decision. And I'm like, okay, give it a couple of weeks. And in a few weeks they go, yeah, we just wanted to get it done with. I mean, it was just people were calling all the time and this and that. It's just like sometimes it feels like they're making that decision, almost out of just the pressure or just to get it over with.
Sure.
And then then from there you might have kids end up flipping, if not or
Yeah, I think that's probably the reason we see people flip their decision more now than they ever did in the past, is because there's so much pressure and they're inundated with texts and they're inundated with like media of like seeing other kids, with these like infographics that cost money. Like, what are we doing?
well, I remember.
Like,
I mean, it was one phone call a week. You've had coaches from my generation or even the older generation come through of just we had a house phone. I didn't have a cell phone until my senior year in high school. And I mean, cell phones were out, but there wasn't text message back then. Like text messages cost you, X amount of cents to send them. So if you weren't at your home and that phone rang, and it was one phone call a week. So if you answered
right.
it and they talked to you, that was it. They couldn't call you for the next week, Steve Mako, I was a sophomore. No, I'm sorry, I was a junior, and he was a senior, and he didn't commit until the spring of his senior year. He was like,
He didn't commit to Iowa until the spring of his senior year. Really?
yeah, our phone in our dorm room would ring off the hook, like I was at Blair, so it was like we had study hall. So from 8 to 10, it was study hall. So when 8 o'clock came, it was like phone turned off. Like it was like the lines were cut. It was looking back on it, I was like, this was insane. Like you would be on the phone. You would be on the phone at like 7:59. You're like, I gotta go because the phone, and then just cut off on you. Like the conversation ended right there. So like
that would not fly in today's culture at all. By the way, that would not fly.
Oh my gosh, it was great in a sense.
No, it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
But the phone would ring 8 o'clock. The phone would stop ringing. As soon as it hit 10 o'clock, like in our dorm, our phone was on. Again, it was on from 10 to 11, and then the phone shut off at 11. As soon as it turned 10 o'clock, that phone started ringing of coaches of trying to get in touch with Steve, and Steve just wasn't having it. He was like, I don't care. But I remember.
Give me no. You got to divulge a little bit more. Like, what would he say? Would he pick up the phone, or would he would just ignore it?
He just ignored it. Like he didn't want to talk to anybody. He was just like, I just want to stay focused on what I'm doing, and maybe like obviously I think he passed them off all to his brother, or his dad, Big Joe, or
like he's an agent.
But it was hilarious because I remember one time the phone, like I'm a junior in high school and the phone rings and I pick it up and it's Jay Robinson, for Minnesota. Minnesota just had Brock Lesnar on their team, and like Garrett Lowney just was finishing up. Like Steve would come in right after Lowney, and Lowney was a Olympic bronze medalist, in Greco, and he's like, yeah, can you ask Steve to call me back because I called and I can't call back now because he has got to call me, so I'm like, okay. And I run over to like the other dorm where Steve's at. I'm like, hey, Steve, Jay Robinson just called you, man. You got to go over there and call. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm not. I'm like, bro, it's like they like just won the NCAA championships last year.
That's
Like they're
J-Rob, dude.
like they're pretty good. I think they had, that was the year like they had 10 All-Americans. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I don't care. It was just how
What
he
was
how
his like? That's he was such a unique dude. He's just and it is a unique dude. What do you think the thought process was there? Because like, look, one of the things that I'm sure didn't go unnoticed is their success at the heavyweight weight class, right?
yeah.
Like they have a history of
Well,
producing some of the best heavyweights in the world.
yeah, I mean, the other thing too back then, like you knew of it, but you didn't know it all because it wasn't shoved in your face. It's
Mm,
like there wasn't articles out on, 125 University, who's the best, but all that kind of stuff. There wasn't those kind of things. And, there wasn't, text messages or any of those things. I remember like, if you got letters, you got letters. You didn't get text
yeah,
messages. You got letters from from coaches, and
yeah.
honestly, like, that's kind of the coolest thing. So like, I don't know, you just didn't recognize it. But with him, I think he just always thought like, one, making the decisions hard. It's like kind of deciding on where you're going to go to school and picking, for, you're setting up, you look at it as a 5 year, as a 5 year college. But really now, if you have any interest of wrestling in RTCs, it really turns into like,
It's a
it
decade long endeavor.
could be, yeah, it could be longer than a decade. And then if you're at some place for a decade and you're reliable and you're a good coach or a good person and you got your feet on the ground, you're doing it, it could turn into a 20-year deal, or maybe even a lifetime. So there's crazy a lot of decisions that go into it. But yeah, I wish you could kind of get back to some of the old school recruiting or the old school
Yeah.
way of that. I remember my mom brought like a book. I didn't know, half the time too, like I didn't even know these college coaches were even sending me stuff because I was at Blair and they're sending it to my home, where
Right.
my mom and my mom was like dropping stuff off to me, and she had a whole book of like all my college letters, and it was like handwritten notes from like Brands and Coach Smith and all these guys. And I was like, I'd never seen this stuff. It might have influenced me a little different then. But it was kind of funny.
That's wild, dude. So you just had like basically your mom hands you her own scrapbook for you, basically.
Yeah, it was
That's
funny.
wow.
That's funny. But like I
All right.
said, like when you make that commitment in the fall of your senior year, it was a giant relief, and you go, okay, I know where I'm going, and I'm gonna focus on the season. Now they're doing it a year before as a junior, but I still think there's so much more time to develop. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
said, the fall of your senior year is so different from the fall of your junior year, and then not only just that, just the weight you grow. You never know what weight you're really going to turn into, weight you're not going to turn into. And, I think if I could give advice to any kids in the recruiting, it's like, don't look at it as just, checking the box, just checking a box
Yeah.
like I got over with, kind of dig yourself and, you know, there's nothing wrong with not rushing it.
Yeah. And I think I think we're gonna start. I think we're gonna start seeing the pendulum swing in that direction. I hope, because I think with all of this information that we have now again, some of it can be inundating. Like some of it can be really overwhelming for these kids and for these parents,
Mhm.
and even for coaches to a certain degree. I think there is power in this information. They can look and go, okay, here are the guys that worked out. Here's why they worked out. And here is when they made those decisions. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah. Tough. Listen, sticking up, for the college coaches too. It's just as hard on them as it is on
Oh,
the
yeah.
kid, in the sense of like going, you're talking to a 17, sometimes 16-year-old kid, and really they're so manipulated, or could be so manipulated to be told kind of anything. It's just like you do have to be involved in as the parent. I really do believe that. But a kid out, he get awed, you know, um, and that's why I think they need a little bit more time to even mature, and even focus still on ourselves. That's why, I mean, I think that it's best almost for everybody that visits don't start until the spring of their junior year. I think that it's
After their junior season.
after the NCAA tournament in
Yeah.
March. Your visits should really start in that time. And some college coaches could be like, "No, you're wrong," or some could be like, "Yeah, thanks for saying that." But I think it just gives you more time, and it really doesn't mean that you can't stop communication. I mean, maybe just keep communication in that fall of their junior year. But in terms of getting to the nuts and bolts of it, I think that it just could be a little bit better in the sense of where.
Yeah, you can tighten it up. Now, I don't think that many people are going to question that. I really don't. All right, we got to talk a little bit about these tournaments. I actually went through the registration. Now, Midlands brackets are not up.
Mhm.
The Iowa tournament is not up, but Southern Scuffle registration is up.
Okay.
Down a little bit. Okay. I counted 33 ranked wrestlers in all weight classes, only
Wow.
6 in the top 10. Only 6 wrestlers in the top 10. 2 at 125, 1 at 133, 2 at 49, and they're 9 and 10, and then 97 has 1.
Wow.
So, yeah. And you know what's interesting? You said it before. There was a time where top 3 teams in the country were wrestling the Southern Scuffle.
Mhm.
Stanford might win that this year. I mean, there's a good chance Stanford wins this tournament this year. And that's first things first. People might hear that and think it's like a knock. I think it's a cool thing. Like Stanford winning any NCAA tournament is kind of cool. Like it's come a long way. There has to, if we truly want to sell this sport, and this is something that you and I spoke about privately, we we need a little bit more parity. Like we need a little bit more parity. Even if it's parity in the middle, there needs to be some type of parity in this sport.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that's what makes the NCAA wrestling tournament so exciting, and some in the conference tournaments, because it's forced competition where you can't not go to the conference tournament. I mean, we've seen people enter the tournament and forfeit out because of staying healthy for the NCAA tournament, but that's what makes it so exciting, because it's like, hey, it's no way out now. Now we get to actually see this whole tournament, play together. And, maybe that's a little bit different, from the era that I wrestled in. But the one thing that was huge when I wrestled in college, or really when everything, was the national duels, and that was incredible. I'm not saying that the right thing is to do a national NCAA championship as a dual tournament. I'm saying, like, to be able to come together in a whole and say, this tournament is just as prestigious. You wish that the NCAA could give out 2 national titles, but I think they've already.
But why can't, like, I mean, here's the thing. If we were losing money, which a lot of NCAA sports do, I don't know if people recognize that they lose money on their NCAA championship, their national championship.
I think all
the
of them.
Division One,
Yeah.
right. But like we actually make a little bit of money. Like we're not killing it like football. I get it. Okay, we don't have ABC, NBC money coming in, but we don't lose money on our NCAA championship.
Oh, why can't we be an ABC sport? I mean, women's volleyball.
No, we can't. 100%.
Yeah.
We can't. But I guess what I'm saying is, what does it cost the NCAA to sanction a dual meet championship? It's such a big part of the sport. We all know that is what really sells the sport.
Well, I don't. If it's has to do with who knows what it has to do with, something political within the NCAA, to be able to give 2 national. I mean, this year that they only given trophies to the top 3 teams this year. I mean, for what reason? To save money on a trophy? I mean, we should give it to.
I got $70, dude. I'll give you a trophy, right? Like, come on. I'll donate it.
It's hard enough to finish in the top 4, top 5. I mean,
Yeah,
and now you're
it's so
taking
hard.
to be in the top 3. I mean, now you go
I don't get
home,
it.
it's a little empty-handed. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, if even if you look at football, the bowl games aren't an NCAA title. There's
No.
actually a national championship in football. You have your conferences, and then you have the college, the college football, championships. And I think that whatever you put value on is going to be given value. And in order to be able to do that, you have to have everyone be able to come together and say, we're going to do this. And I think they had tried to do it, and people point fingers of name and why they didn't do that. And what I mean,
People point fingers at Cal.
it needs to come. Maybe it needs to come from the universities, not from just the coaches. I mean, sometimes we can be our own enemies, and to people's to people, to defend them a little bit. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're in the Big Ten Conference, or you're in, you got a grueling schedule, one more hard event on you. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, hey, we wrestled Penn State. It was the number 1 and number 2 team in the country, and it was for the dual meet national championship. Back a couple of years ago, they did like regionals.
The match that nobody saw.
Regionals went to super regional, and then the winner of that wrestled each other in the finals. For a dual meet championship. And Piccinini was wrestling Suriano, and Suriano hurt his ankle, and then was top 4 seed at the NCAA championship that year, and didn't wrestle because so to the defense of some of the coaches, you're putting your athletes in another tough competition or whatever it might be, but a dual meet.
Yeah. Okay. I understand that. You're not wrong about that.
But I'm saying also that's from a coach's perspective. What you might have to do is take it out of the coach's hands and force them to do it. If it's going to be for the best thing for your sport, then and that's what you do. Adjust your schedule. As a coach, you'll have to adjust your schedule. To
adjust their schedule for the Olympics. That's for sure. Right.
Yes.
I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now. Okay. Journeyman Collegiate Classic, November 12th. Black Knight invite. Don't think they brought their ones to that. Okay. The All-Star Classic. Dual meet. Big Tens.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't have to wrestle the ones against basically.
Guys wrestle in the Olympic stuff. I mean, that's what I mean. I think that if the event's important enough, to the kid or to the school, you're going to adjust your schedule to it. If it's a prestigious award, I mean, hey, you throw some bonus money in there to the coaches, to go win this, or bonus money to the schools and the athletic department. They're not going to wrestle.
Yeah, where does that money come from? Because here's the thing about it, right? Like
TV.
it has to be NBC.
No, I mean, the venue they hold it. I mean, listen, these off-campus dual meets, they're not doing it off-campus because, if you're going to have a huge dual meet, you want it on your college campus to create college, students coming in there and a school pride, all that kind of stuff, So when you're holding it off-campus,
doing it off-campus for money.
There's incentive for you to do it. It could be incentive to the program. It could be incentive to, they had the journeyman, national duels. Papalizzi was trying to get national duels back, and incentive that if you won, money was being made to go back to the schools. So I don't know. It just would be great to see because I heard you and Lawrence talking about it too, and sometimes good teams are unrecognized.
Right, because nobody thinks about Cornell as being perennially like one of the top teams in the country, but they're really good.
Yeah,
they're really, really, really good, dude. And
Campbell beat Iowa State in the dual meet. Look at Columbia just beat Northern Iowa in a dual meet. I'm sorry to the coaches bringing that up. The people that won.
Yeah, but what happens, dude?
huge things. And people talk, you got injuries, you got this, and you got that. I'm like, yeah, all those things play a factor into dual meets. And if if it's too much, then you got to do things like we got to shorten the season or something. That if we're worried about all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't.
No, I know.
But I think that if you could implement something of a dual meet championship, one, it's another feather in your cap if you win that too. And two, there might be teams that finish in the top 10 in that dual meet championship that wouldn't finish in the top 10 at the NCAA championship.
There'd be I think it would, with the exception of like the top 2 or 3 teams.
Yeah.
I think the 3 through 8, 3 through 10 would look a lot different.
Yeah.
3 through 8 would look a lot different than the individual tournament for sure.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even if you look at, I did some snooping around, just team performances over the last 10, 15 years. The second place team generally is not that close. Like it's generally not that close. Right. Mm-hmm. So if we're gonna agree that there's no real rooting interest for your school, and we know we're such a tribal community, the NCAA tournament is almost a foregone conclusion almost every year. There's really and one of the years Penn State beat Ohio State. Ohio State took second. They scored 133 points. That's good enough to win most years, dude. That's a lot of points in the NCAA tournament. But it just so happened that Penn State scored 157. So it's like, and that's not that close, right? That's not really 24 points away. That's a finalist, So it's like, geez Louise, man. We need to have more competitive nature there.
I think that year 2, Ohio State was favored in the duel against them, and Penn State upset them. And I think that, that was a big. So I think that, the best teams can adjust to those dual meets. It's just, I think what's exciting is that the guy that's not going to be an All-American could also be a hero. I mean,
yes.
How many times like you're in a dual meet and, I'm not saying this guy goes out there not to get majored, but everyone knows that when this guy loses and only gives up 3 points, that's almost
a win.
And or the kid that gets an upset in the duel to help win the team. I mean, it's way different type of pressures too, that if you're in a dual meet and things get tight and you start getting to these upper weight classes, all of a sudden, some guys wrestle tight, some guys rise to that occasion, and I mean, I've been a part of the winning side, and I've been a part of the losing side. I remember we lost to Pittsburgh one year. Oklahoma State lost to Pittsburgh one year, and I think we took second in NCAAs that year. And it was just one of the where one of our guys, I think our 49-pounder, got caught in a cement job or a cement mixer, got pinned, and it came down to heavyweight, and our heavyweight was tight, and he got beat. And we went on to take a trophy home that year. So it was those are the things that are exciting, about it, is that, guys that maybe not go on to be All-Americans, still go on to be, a hero for their school or for their team.
They can go down in Navy history.
Yeah.
Right. Or something like that. Like that's freaking cool. And that's just one more selling point. And one of the ways that I look at it too is if I were a college coach and I said and I had a recruit that I'm looking at, and I asked him, would you rather be part of an NCAA, team title? Or now all of a sudden I can say that, like, hey, are you a team guy or are you just a me guy? Right. Because there's a way that you can kind of draw that out of kids, of course, but like, it's very simple now, man. Like, kids will tell you if they're just, hey, I got to win my NCAA title, team, great. But now if there's an actual litmus test to show these kids, hey, look, man, we're taking top 4 at the national duels every year. Every year we're putting together a team. Look at Pitt. Look at Navy might go undefeated in duels this year. Now, that and a nickel don't get you a cup of coffee, okay? But that's pretty cool for Navy, right? Like, It's not bad.
It's hard that, I mean, Colot's had great seasons, at Navy or, at Campbell. And sometimes it could look like the season was, it just stinks that your season's either made or broke. Or you're made or, it's either made or it's not at the NCAA championship. You could have the worst season in the world with dual meets, and you could finish in the top 10 and look like a hero. Or you could have the best dual meet, upset teams all year, and then have a bad
Have
tournament.
everybody in the top 25 and that don't mean shit. Let's call it what it is.
But I mean, that's how it always been, and that
No,
was
I know. I'm not
that was
bitching. I'm just saying it's something.
Yeah. I mean,
like these Colot's doing a real good job, dude. Like that's it's not the easiest place to get people in. I mean, don't get me wrong, he has unlimited scholarships. That's good. But it's not super easy to get guys to go there. Now it might be easier now because it's free education, right? But I don't know. It's not easy to win there, like traditionally.
I mean, everything has a challenges, but it seems sometimes like, depending on the school, what are your resources or what are you going to go into? I remember Mark Cody when he was at like American University, and it's just like, hey, he was a tournament team, wasn't a dual meet team, just and I think that, I think he won Coach of the Year. He took 5th in the NCAA championships with American, and you're like, holy cow!
He didn't qualify his whole team.
2 finalists, and a national championship, which still you're going to America. I mean, that's incredible, But he knew like this was
that's the game he's playing. Yeah,
we're going to be successful here. It's like it's too hard to build this dual meet team, or you build a dual meet team. I don't know if you're at one of the schools you can have both ways. I think if you're in one of those power schools, you can do it. Maybe. I mean, Chris Pendleton's doing a great job with it at Oregon State. He's showing that he could compete in dual meets, and he's showing that he could produce all Americans. And maybe he'll build, towards all that, and that'd be a good conversation with him also.
But look at Pat at NC State.
Yeah.
Right. Like, he finishes out of the money a lot, but that's a dual meet team. They're tougher than hell on a dual meet.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I mean, obviously when we talk to him, he's all aboard on the NCAA dual meet tournament, but that's, while it's self-serving for him to say that, I'm as a bipartisan type person, I need to see it from a fan's perspective. Like, the NCAA tournament takes too long. We are never, like, 3 days, 6 sessions. It's just too much. It's just too much to ask of people's attention, especially in a TikTok generation. We're never going to be able to build a casual fan base. We're never going to build. The only reason people travel for the NCAA tournament, in my estimation, is because either they competed in it one time and they're nostalgic, or they have a team that they competed with, and they like, so the group of buddies goes to the NCAA tournament. But like the NCAA basketball tournament, like that's like one of the biggest weekends in Vegas every year. Mm-hmm. Like that's like, so it's like we ask too much of our fans, where a dual meet in and out 2 hours, that's very digestible.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you look at it in the rounds, I don't know how long the finals take or the semifinals, kind of take.
I think they have blocked off. Well, the finals they have blocked off too.
They're all rounds. One round I think that gets drowned out by the semifinal round is that blood round. Is that All American? I think that's almost like a round. I wish you could broadcast more. It's just, you got the semifinals going on, which is a huge round, and on the ends of those mats.
How about this? How about, give me 1 second. How about this? I 100% agree with you. And do you know the only thing that is stopping ESPN from promoting the blood rounds, it's 2 more employees. 2 more employees to cut up the matches and push them out in the public's face. Like, that's it. Like, if that's really all it takes is like 2 people that are willing to put their nose down and grind out. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun work to do that. Like, I've done it before. It's miserable work, but you got to do it, Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah, I don't know the technical side. I'm usually the guy in the back getting drilled on before going out. Getting that guy ready. I don't know the side, but it's like it gives sometimes these schools that pop through for an All-American, a platform also. You see, a guy at All-Americans for a school that, hasn't had an All-American in 10 years or something,
Sure.
or a lot of things like that. I think it's kind of cool to see, because there might be some schools in that All-American round that get All-Americans that are not going to have a finalist, or may never have a finalist, or shouldn't say never, but to have a finals, it takes
Huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to go, have a national champ or a finalist. I mean, a lot of things have to work. Heck, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it of that.
Yeah. All right, Espo. Let's wrap it up here. We got Midland starts tomorrow. When does that salute to the troops? When does that start?
I think that starts tomorrow too, right?
Okay. And then scuffle, obviously the 1st and 2nd. What else? Anything else you want to tell the people before we get going here?
Powerades finishing up, or the younger kids are finishing up. Tomorrow starts the high school. That's been fun to watch. I like watching the younger kids. Now that's the kind of group of guys that I'm around a lot more. Next best talent. Come
That's
up.
pretty interesting.
Really cool.
Yeah. How's that? Like, has it been? Because it's to me, it's really interesting to see. First of all, the development of these kids is bananas. They're so good now. They're so good. I was talking we had Kenny Courts in today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah. He's like, these kids are so good. They're like 10. They're so good. He's like, they're getting super dunks. He's like, But the level of talent's good.
Might also be because we're getting older too.
Well, maybe, but no. I mean, the level's really high.
So many reasons, and I think I talked to you, last time about this too. It's that, in Russia or another country like that, they know that a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old is going to come in. They know that it's coming because of their system, because of, the passion, just everything, the resource, they know. They're not shocked that a younger kid's coming in. They're just like, this is a good young kid, and I think that, I think we need to get away from that shock and awe value of a high school kid being the senior level guy, even though, like, I'm guilty of it too, going, holy cow, but I think of it now going, like, that's just who we are now. We have young guys.
It's healthy.
Challenging older guys. And hey, if the older guy is not training the way that it is, this young, hungry kid is going to come and take you out. And
even if he thinks he's got to round off, even if he is training, even if he thinks he's got to round off, bullshit. You wrestle.
Oh yeah. And that's exciting. That's exciting as a fan to watch. That's exciting for a coach of, for the United States. It's exciting for a lot of things. So no, but it's super cool, man. You get to see, the youngest talents. I think the coolest thing too is, like, get to see and be around some of the parents and see their perspective of the way they took with their kids, and pick their brains about what they did, and who they surround them by. And, it just goes to always show you that the environment you have your kid in, you're a product of it. So some of these kids, I mean, they're around good coaches. They're around, good mentors.
That's really what it is. That's
like I said, I think,
let's be honest, bro. Like, it all started with Ernie, right? Like, let's be completely honest. He changed the sport. Whether he kind of set out to do it or not doesn't matter. He changed the sport. Professionalism in coaching at a youth level is probably reason number one that we're in the state that we're at right now. I mean, let's be honest, right? No more dad coaching, no more bro coaching. Like
Yeah.
it's gone. I mean, it's not gone. It's not gone completely, but it's fewer and farther between. That's for sure.
I mean, that's a good question maybe to ask people. It's like what makes a good coach, you know? And sometimes I don't know if I don't think it's always the skill or a lot of that stuff. It's like what makes a good coach, and sometimes it's a person that could just, to me, it's like a person that could provide that learning environment, that feels passion, um, and being available, to help them, reach their goals, But yeah, I think, you know, a good coach is a person that can create that environment. I mean, I think that if you look at all the best programs in the country, or even the best things in the world, or even what, you've done at USA Wrestling, I mean, the more often we can have camps and the best athletes come in here to train, the better we're going to be, of iron and just, hey, listen, man, I've seen it. I've seen, the best, you know, I won't give names, but you could have the number one guy and a number two guy in the same room at the Olympic Training Center, and they cannot be working out together, but they are aware of each other in that room and their level,
100%.
And you could go on YouTube right now and see, Sajalayev training right now in Dagestan, getting ready, they're getting ready for the Eureka tournament, and you look in the room and I'm counting the number of world and Olympians in there, and I'm like, all right, there's an Olympic medalist, there's an Olympic champ, there's a world champ, there's a world medalist, and it raises the room. It raises room. And the cool thing was now too is that I saw that, like looking at it with Russia, and I was like, we had that 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
Olympic, and it's like
10 years ago, we couldn't say that.
Yeah.
We couldn't say that 10 years ago.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that's a question you could ask some people. It's like, what, in your opinion, what makes a good coach? And
On that.
and I think
I have
that's,
it written down.
I don't know. It's a hard question. It's an open-ended question.
It's not. Yeah. Oh no, it's not an easy. Like you said it, and I wrote it down immediately because it is. First of all, it lends insight into the answer.
Yeah, I think Bill Zack did an incredible job with it too. I think it's a certain role and a certain personality that you have to have in the role as the head coach of the United States, and I think he does a good job, of managing the different personalities and everything, and
Is that
being,
what we're calling it? Personalities. Egos, fine, whatever you call it, what you want.
Yeah, but it's good.
No, but that's a skill, right? Like that's a skill, dude. Because Joe Torre was amazing. He was the perfect coach for that team in the early 2000s.
Well, listen,
like there was a lot of egos.
Herb Meyer and Nick Saban both went to the pros and came right back to college. And it's like, certain niches. I think, Phil Jackson with the Bulls and the Lakers, it's like, hey, you got to have a certain type of, way of coaching that you can manage those, those guys. A micromanager, not have been able to do it.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously that, and you have everyone else in the country, helping coach, the guys and everything like that. But for a position like that, I think, he's done pretty incredible with it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Espo, let's get out of here. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on. I'll talk to you real soon, brother.
See ya.
See ya.